Hello, hello, my global friends. It's Izabela Lundberg here, the World Messenger, and I have a very, very special guest here for our live that I cannot wait to dialogue with and answer all of your questions. We're having Jeff Hetchner joining us here. Today we're streaming not only on LinkedIn, but also YouTube and Facebook. So you have a chance to find on multiple different platforms to engage with us. But more than anything, we are really addressing hot topic, which is driving talent engagement and performance like a pro. And why we're doing this and why you cannot miss this conversation, obviously, is Jeff, it's been there and done that. And he is helping others to do the same. So, Jeff, welcome.
Great to be with you, Izabela. I always enjoy our dialogue and our discussions. Truly value what you're doing to support leaders out there. Clearly, leadership is challenging. It always has been a challenge, but man, it's really been interesting over the last 12 months. And I really enjoy the content that you're putting out to help support leaders right where they're at. So I consider it a great privilege to be with you all today and with your audience as well.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And for everybody that don't get a chance to be on Clubhouse or doesn't know yet about Clubhouse or is not able to navigate since it's still exclusive for Apple iPhone users, we have a lot of these discussions at least 3 times a week, right? Mm-hmm. And it's such a rich opportunity. But one of the main reasons I want you to guys get a glimpse of what we're talking about and how we're addressing some really of those hot topics is now to give you a chance to step away from Clubhouse and actually have this robust knowledge directly here streamed for you. So, Jeff, obviously, you've been going through a lot of change and transformation in your personal and professional life. And as a thought leader who I actually not only respect, but just hearing every time, it's just so many golden nuggets that helps me to continuously transform. So do you mind sharing a little bit about your background? How did you get into not only leadership, obviously, but to really be where you are today? What it was some of the pivotal moments career-wise to get you here?
Yeah, boy, it's a long story. Maybe it'll be a book someday, but yeah, I love telling my story. I used to hide my story, but now I think when you can make your mess your message, it can help other people. And I grew up very, very humbly, a life of poverty. I had 2 parents that were very, very sick, never worked a day in my life. My mom battled a autoimmune disease called lupus and was very, very ill my entire life until she passed young. And my dad was also disabled medically, had chronic osteoarthritis, several surgeries on his feet, ended up having amputations. It was just a rough upbringing. And when you don't have a lot of money and you live in poverty, man, it really messes with your mind and it leads you down some bad paths of desperation. And my brother and I, our greatest hope, Izabela, was, get in a good steel mill or a coal mine here in southwestern Pennsylvania and make a run at it and help take care of our parents. And that would have been amazing. And that was the goal. But I got into some trouble as a teenager, got around the wrong people. I didn't listen to Stephen Covey that you're a product of the 5 people. Well, I guess I did. I was a product of the 5 people, but it wasn't great. And so I knew I needed change. I knew I needed structure. And so I joined the United States military. And I'd love to tell you that I was full of patriotism and ready to go serve. But the reality was I was running from something and not to something. And upon leaving, transitioning from the military, quite frankly, I was just looking for a job with benefits. And I answered a newspaper article, I'm showing my age here, for a job that was route delivery. And basically the qualifier was you had to have good communication skill and be able to work hard. And quite frankly, the only skill I had at the time was hard work. And so I applied to a job at Cintas Corporation as a truck driver in 1996. And I spent 23 and a half years there and was able to get promoted 11 times. And in 2019, I couldn't scratch the itch anymore. And I decided I wanted to spend the rest of my life making deposits into leaders. And so I started Jeff Hancher Enterprises in 2019, not knowing a pandemic was right around the corner. But what I thought was going to be a very short venture has ended up being tremendously fulfilling. So that's kind of the nickel tour of where I came from and where I'm at currently.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're having here Alberto joining us. Great to see Alberto, and excited to be part of it. Looking forward to your questions and comments, as well as Sai, who also said that he loved the part that you said, I used to hide my story. And isn't it the truth that all of us have some parts of ourselves, not necessarily to hide, but we cannot fully face it and embrace it, and then how that pivoted in our lives and who we are today. But with your story, what you also shared, obviously, when we know more, when we can do better, we do better, right? Or at least that is what's supposed to be. And the realities that we're seeing right now, with obviously starting your own enterprise and being very successful on leading and helping helping leaders to transform into better leaders and better decision makers. Obviously, you had to go through a lot of these changes yourself. So what were some of the key elements that helped you out to be able to pivot? Obviously, military helped you to give you some of the foundation. And then right now, as all the leaders want to have that more influence, more impact, how did you create that within yourself so that you can actually now teach others, which is exactly what you're doing?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And it's one that I've put a lot of thought into because, success is magnetic. And by no means am I telling you that I'm the greatest thing that's ever hit the planet. But, I was able to get to a place that I don't think the world expected me to go based off of where I came from. And, to get promoted that many times in such a large organization, being uneducated, my background, very little direction. I remember interviewing for my first sales job that was a white collar job, and I didn't know how to tie a tie. I didn't know what fashion was. I didn't know how to look professional. I didn't know how to talk professional. And as I look back on it, I've really boiled it down to three things, Izabela. And this is for any leader listening or anybody that's just looking to get more. I think it's three things. The first thing is to be accountable. Accountability is huge, not only for us, but as leaders for the people that we lead. And accountability is one of the three key ingredients, I think, to getting to where you want to go. And I tell people all the time, you're going to sit in one of four camps in life. Camp one is, I hope it doesn't come up. Camp two is, if it comes up, I'll wing it. Camp three is, if it comes up, I'm ready to talk about it. But then there's camp four. And camp four is, if it doesn't come up, I'm going to bring it up. But to get into camp four, it requires a lot of effort. It means that you have answers to problems. Well, how do you become somebody that has answers to problems? You have to consume. You have to get around the right people. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be willing to give up what you want now for what you want most. What you want now is to get to the beach earlier, to get to happy hour earlier, to go throw darts with the guys or go bowl with the ladies. And all those things are great. I like to have fun too. But you if you want it, you got to be able to do things that others won't to get what others don't have. And accountability is that. Accountability is saying, I'm going to put myself in camp four. Because when you're in camp four, Izabela, you have answers. If you know how to do CPR, for example, and somebody is laying lifeless on the floor, you now have something that lifeless body needs. You don't wait for somebody else. You go and you take action because you have something to give. And that's painful. We had to learn that. Now we have to do an uncomfortable thing. But what I know about leadership and what I know about success is it is uphill. But here's some great news. You'll get paid in proportion to the problems that you can solve. Solve big problems, get paid well. And the second thing I would tell you is continuous improvement. We got to get better, right? You can't stay stagnant. Even if you have just reached the pinnacle, that doesn't make you great if you haven't reached your potential. Are you better than everybody else? That doesn't make you great because you could be surrounded by average. I like to call it being the cream of the crop. You know, are you really good, or are you lucky? Are you really good, or are you around people that are just average and it makes you feel great? We got to seek our potential. That's the benchmark. And again, continuous improvement, that's going to come with some resistance and some sacrifice. And I remember a great analogy to display this is when I was 17 years old, my uncle introduced me to the sport of boxing because I was getting into some trouble and I was kind of a troublemaker. And he felt like if I could start boxing, I could get some frustration out. So I show up to my first training class, and the trainer, he could see that I had this chip on my shoulder. And so he probably thought, I'm going to teach this kid. So he gave me a partner, and they grabbed this big leather medicine ball. And he said, Jeff, I want you to go with this partner, and this partner is going to drop this thing on your stomach 20 times. I want to hear you count out loud. So there I went, 18, 19, 20. And I got up, I brushed it off. And he walked over, my trainer, and he said, hey, what are you doing? I said, you told me to count out loud 20 times. And I did. He said, oh, my mistake. He said, I didn't want you to start counting until you started feeling pain. He said, because you're going to have to understand something. You're either going to pay with sweat in this gym, or you're going to pay with blood in the ring. Either way, you're going to pay. Isn't that a lot like continuous improvement? You can pay now preparing. Absolutely. Or you can pay or you're going to lose. Losing is painful. So is winning. If there's going to be pain, let's win. I know what losing feels like. Izabela, your background, your story, you know what pain feels like. There's pain in winning too. Let's pay the price, make the sacrifices, and let's go win. Be willing to do what others won't do to get what others don't have.
That is fantastic. And Michael, thank you for joining us from Colorado Springs, my fellow Coloradan. And also we're having here Anup joining us from Japan. Great to have you with us as well. Thank you so much. So with gentlemen here in the audience, if you have any questions, because Jeff is sharing some really amazing life stories that are helping him to pivot and from poverty create a not only successful career and path, but also has his own enterprise and be successful what he does. And the beauty is, what I love about it is everything is experiential, right? Everything you experience, you use those, you build the muscles you learned, and then you are, again, adding additional skills. And I love when you say continuous improvement, because we always can be better, right? And that desire to not perfect it, but just to constantly work on something and that is applicable, that is needed, and understanding what that is and knowing ourselves, I think it's a key to success. Won't you say that?
Yes, absolutely. And as leaders that are watching, not that we ever get the feeling like we've arrived. That would be being too content. But when we do become a place that we have something to give, then we can take these same principles and we can start making those deposits into other people. The accountability. Are you holding them accountable? Are they holding themselves accountable to getting to where they want to go? Are they improving? Are you giving them the tools to get better? That's not only good for retention, it's good for business, but at the end of the day, it's great leadership. We know this, Izabela, that leadership goes far beyond the P&L. It goes far beyond the KPI. When we make these deposits into people, that's when real success happens. That's why I'm passionate about leadership. I got around some amazing leaders that took this, snot-nosed kid that didn't know what he was doing, that only knew how to work hard, didn't know how to put sentences together, didn't know how to tie a tie, didn't know what a collar stay was, molded, shaped, invested. And without leadership and mentoring, there is no story. And so now I give back. Now it's time to make deposits in others. And the third piece of that formula is engaging motivation, which is a good segue. You know,
to our topic and conversation, because it's a
big. You got to engage. What is that thing? We talked about being accountable. We talked about continuous improvement. The third thing, as I look back on my journey, is engaging motivation. Yes, I had a rough childhood. Yes, I held my mom in my hands when she took her last breath, as I did with my dad. I was there through every chemo treatment. I was there through leg amputations. It sucked. I hated it. But so many times people will let that adversity take them out, and it becomes an anchor like on a boat, and it just keeps you in place. But you can take that adversity and make it a propeller. The only way to do that is to engage the motivation. The motivation is, I don't want this to be my story. Or let's get even more real. I didn't want it to be the story of my kids that weren't even born yet. They're not going to have this problem that I had. And I remember, Izabela, going, when I was a truck driver, I used to see all these fancy people dressed to the nines, drove nice cars, had shiny shoes. And I'm like, man, I want that life. That's what I want. And I started asking people, what do those people do? Oh, they're salespeople. Well, that's what I need to do. And an ad came on my radio in my truck about sales training, Dale Carnegie sales training. Wow. And I'm like, I got to do this. Like, if I want to be great, I got to go get training. And I spent literally all but $100 of my savings to go to this training. And I show up at this class in my best polo shirt and Dockers. And I walk in there and there's people in 3-piece suits and they're talking fancy and they look different than me. And I was intimidated. And I swore in my mind in that first class, I'm never going back. That's not my people. Maybe this isn't for me at all. And I remember going through downtown Pittsburgh on my way home, feeling deflated. I'm never going back. And then it hit me. I thought about being at the welfare office in 3rd grade, watching my dad break down emotionally. I thought about all the hospital visits, and that's when that motivation engaged. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going back to that truck. I'm pushing through this. You can either let adversity pull you back and keep you stagnant, or you can say, I'm not going to let hell or high water take me off of it. It's for these same reasons that we hear about these moms lifting cars off of children. That's humanly impossible until you engage your motivation. Critical in these times.
I love it, and you're spot on, because and even though we're maybe not there yet, and we're uncomfortably approaching something, just because they intimidate you, that doesn't mean, again, as you said, is like, if you have two choices: face intimidation and step up, or go back to old that you know it's not working already, and change something. And we have a choice, but then take that full responsibility for that choice, right? Because a lot of times we also see people that are not moving or doing and progressing yet. They're not taking responsibility for their actions or lack of their actions. Right. And as a result, they find themselves in a very challenging situation. We're having here great also comment from Alberto that was talking about how impactful your boxing coaching story it is, and sweat and blood. So he appreciates that. But we also have here from Michael. Michael, thank you so much for asking this great question. So do you mind, Jeff, take a look at this? When you have to navigate a boss who is not going to change, and the work environment that is toxic, how do you handle it? What would you suggest and recommend? That is really, really good question.
That's a great question. That's a tough one too, Michael. And it's a question worth exploring, right? You know, the easy answer is find a better environment, meaning quit. And sometimes that is the right answer. But I would say before you do that, I always say that you're going to be one of two kind of people in life. You're going to be a thermostat, or you're going to be a thermometer. And the thermometer will tell you the temperature. A thermostat will change it. We need more thermostats, right? Now, yes. Michael, I'm not saying you're not a thermostat, but I'm saying, you know, leadership, what we know about leadership is this: it's influence. John Maxwell says it best: leadership is about influence, nothing more, nothing less. So what does that mean? That means that we can influence up. We can lead up. Now, there does come a point in time that you have to ask yourself, is it worth the fight? Do the ends justify the means? When I see toxic environment and I'm in it as an employee, I'm looking to make change. It's no different than if I'm a leader and I have a toxic employee. I'm going to do what I can to make change with that employee. But when I see toxic people, really, I go into one motion: get them out. Get them out of here. I got to save the rest of the team. Get them out. I hope that's not what it comes to.
Spoil everybody else, right?
Exactly. So I would tell you to lead with influence. See the negative situation as an opportunity. First and foremost, what can I do to make this influence? Get great results. That's a great way to get influence. Make big deposits. Start asking that negative boss at the end of every day, whether you want to or not, and it might be tough. Ask them this question. I'm about to leave for the day. Is there anything more I can do for you? At some point, what this creates is what I call leading contributions, doing more than what your day job calls for. This then gives you an opportunity to lead without title. You're not the only one, Michael, or maybe you're asking the question on behalf of that is thinking this on this team. Everybody knows the environment is poor. The question is, who is going to rise up and be the thermostat? If the answer is nobody, and this is a brick wall, count your losses. There's great companies out there with great cultures. Go find one that's going to value what you bring to the table.
Fantastic answer. And then again, a great question, Michael. One thing I just wanted to also just add, everybody knows where their threshold is, right, Jeff? So we know what we can and cannot tolerate any longer. We'll have a different circumstances where sometimes people feel that they're desperate and they have to continue to be in an environment for whatever other reasons are. But I love that you also shared part of where we have huge empowerment.
Yes.
And even though if we may feel stuck and desperate that we cannot make a change, or we're afraid because we need to have that stability, I love that you can still think about it. What can I do so that my life is better in this environment as long as I'm part of it till something else changes? So going back to ourselves, what can we do without always depending on what others going to do? And that's basically what Jeff just said in such an eloquent way. But I wanted to also think about it from empowerment standpoint, because that's really what is boiled back to it: lack of performance, lack of engagement, and not only because of toxic environments, but we're seeing even for environments that are okay, but they're yet not strong in the leadership and strong in clear direction. So do you mind sharing here? And also we have Albert sharing some really great question as well, making our leaders realize about value we provide for the businesses with a simple question: what else can I do before leaving the office? Yes, that is the recapping and question. It is, are we willing to also stay longer and do this, right?
That's right. Back to being accountable and continuous improvement, right? Not everybody's willing to.
Yes. And then how often, and when you also create a new habit, right? How that turns into. So do you mind now sharing a little bit about how this drives the talent engagement and then also performance? And from the pro level, what I mean, because we're seeing some organizations that are really excelling at it. Mm-hmm. And then some organizations that they have amazing teams, yet they're not. And what will be the differentiating factor in your opinion, Jeff? Why is that?
I think, and this is at the forefront right now of many organizations trying to figure all of this out. And I would tell you there's some common denominators. So let's first look at the problem. The problem is low employee morale, or they're getting tired, they're getting exhausted. This usually comes from a couple of different areas. One could be a lack of growth, their personal growth. It could also be a leadership opportunity, meaning there's a lack of clarity. Where are we going? What are we doing? Right now, another big reason that causes low morale is leadership change. We're seeing a lot of leadership change right now. Retention is booming everywhere. We're seeing the executives retiring early that can. We're seeing people that don't want to go back into brick and mortar, changing organizations. Leadership change, no matter how good the change is always a hit on morale. It wouldn't matter if you had a good leader and you're replacing them with Jack Welch himself. There's going to be a morale hit. We know that. But lastly, and the biggest, is leadership problems, meaning we don't have the right people leading the charge. And this is the companies that are now paying for the past sins of not developing people the right way. So what do we do about it? Those are usually the 4 criteria that causes some level of low morale. Without going into great detail, one thing I will tell you, the leaders that are winning the most right now are the ones that are humble and transparent. They're leading with humility, and they're very transparent. Transparent doesn't mean that you have the answers. Transparent sometimes means telling people you don't have the answers. But transparency is going to be huge for employee morale. And this is on the heels of communication. Communication ad nauseum is critical right now. We're coming out of this, I'd say the hardest parts of COVID, depending on where you're at on the planet. I should preface that.
Yes.
But we have this, not everybody is, right? Yes. So this is still widespread and ongoing, but we are feeling the COVID churn with this retention, with this COVID hangover. So we got to keep communicating whatever that messaging is. We got to keep communicating what the vision is, where are we going? And we got to use the right tools. One of the things we talk about is lack of growth. This is a huge morale killer. What are you doing to invest in your team to help make them better? This is big. Gallup is putting out polls. Deloitte is putting out research that they're doing through COVID. I think it was Deloitte that put out that 86% of businesses and HR leaders believe they don't have an adequate leadership pipeline. That should scare us to death. That means that we have people in roles right now because they're the best option, or they're the only option, not because they're great leaders. So what are we doing to invest into our leaders? Individual contributor that was great doesn't make great leadership. So I would tell you, now is absolutely the time to invest and train your leaders. The other thing for morale is team building. Team building is huge. Community is big. These are morale lifters. Some people, we know this, people will stay or leave because of the boss, not because of the money. But the one key piece is that leader has to create community. You'll quit a boss, but it's tough. It's tough to quit on family. And when you create this community, it's hard for people to say goodbye. The other thing is have great incentives. Don't wait for the employee to say, I was able to get 20,000 more over here. That message is coming, by the way, because people are paying a lot for talent right now. Get ahead of this. I'm not saying give everybody pay raises, but think of ways that you can incentivize employees. Incentivizing could be a stronger look at work-life balance. Incentivizing could be everybody leaves Friday at noon. It could be work to quota versus hourly put in, meaning do this 1,000 times in a week. I don't care when you do it, versus paying somebody by the hour or a salary. Give them workload and get it done in this amount of time. That's employee incentive. And encourage mental wellness. This is huge. Gardner actually put a research out that in the last 90 days, on average, companies have increased their mental wellness budget by 35%. This is going to be big going into Q3 and 4 of 21 by every indicator that we're seeing. Engage in mental wellness.
Yes. Wow. You definitely shared a lot of great golden nuggets here. And guys, I hope you're watching and listening this very carefully and taking some notes here. But what I wanted to also just to add to this, Jeff, you spot on. Obviously, we have to really know who we already have here, right? And who we cannot afford to lose. And then how do we don't disrupt further the union of the team and cohesiveness? Because it always takes so much more and longer to make that happen. In addition to obviously to the leadership. And what we're also seeing, which is also so striking when you were mentioning all the statistics, one of the research that is being done, I believe was Gallup as well, that mentioned that the less than 25% of leaders feel confident in leading virtually.
True.
And with that in mind, that is such a huge shocker that we already have 1 year under belts. And when we talk about consistent growth and figure it out and then being comfortable and finding ways that we challenge ourselves. Look at what you're doing with me. You are having a podcast. You are actually jumping on the live. We're not having no filters here, guys. Obviously, we're just having real conversation in real time and sharing our knowledge and information. And you are leveraging technology on so many different levels, right? Of course, also how you run your own business, but also how you make yourself visible. And today, more than ever, an additional piece for all of those things, for morale and whatnot, is that visibility. Visibility in sense of that I am okay and I'm comfortable to share, which it is that transparency, but it is that honesty too, that we are humans and it's not about perfection, but it's about desire and willingness to show up and be available and be vulnerable. And I find the vulnerability is one of the huge factors, obviously, that I see so many people are completely ignoring, camouflaging, and as a result, disconnecting, right?
Yes.
So I just wanted to kudos you for not only walking the talk and doing what you do, but also how much you continue to challenge yourself. And I just want to urge for everybody that is in leading positions and you're still uncomfortable to lead virtually, it's a huge opportunity for you to step up into that game. Otherwise, you're going to hinder not only your own success, but success of others and your team, frankly.
No doubt. Well said, Izabela. And you know, give a little bit of tough accountability to the listener. When you signed up to lead, you have said at that moment, it's not about me anymore.
Yeah.
There's people counting on you to lead. Let's make it personal. There are families counting on you to lead their mom, their dad, to lead them well. And it's, you know, in this season that we're in, we have to make the deposits. And, you know, don't wait on your company. Maybe you're in an organization like Michael or Michael's friend or somebody that Michael knows that's it's toxic. They're not making deposits. They're not investing in leadership. Look, we know this. You can either get good at making excuses or you can get good at making results, but you can't do both. Don't wait on your company to make you great. Go consume information. Get on YouTube. Me and Izabela, we could go on YouTube right now. We could have a rocket ship built by Sunday and be on the moon. I'm confident. Like there's so much to ingest out there, but then take it one step further. Yes, consume, but then get around it. Get around people that have been where you want to go. As a leader, we owe it, to your point, Izabela, to the people we're leading to have something to give. But if you don't consume, you have nothing to give. You become the Dead Sea. No outlet, stagnant, dying. Not only are you dying, the people that you've been tasked to lead are also dying. So what are you ingesting? And are you getting people in your circle? I didn't say in your company. I didn't say from your HR department. I didn't say at the next world-class training that your company's putting on. Are you getting around people that have been where you want to go? You can't just read and you can't just have mentoring. You need both. If just consuming worked, then I could go read a golf book that Tiger Woods wrote and I could play just like him. It doesn't work that way. I'm not going to lead like John Maxwell by reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I need to get around John Maxwell. Leadership is one of those things that it's better caught than it is taught. Get around it. Don't wait for your company to give you the tools to become great. If you're in a company like that, you are fortunate, but go chase down your success. Point number 3 earlier, engage your motivation. When you do that, again, you won't let hell or high water or any lack of training or anything hold you back. Go get what you need to not only be successful, but to lead people well, because that's your legacy. You have leadership in your title. It's not about you. People are counting on you to win and lead them well.
That is brilliant. Love it. And we have a great comments here from Asay, who was also mentioning how much he can really relate to this as IT professor and professional and facilitator with his students that are always asking after they complete the course, are they going to be able to get a job? Because, completing the course doesn't necessarily means expertise, but it is stepping stone to that. Wouldn't you say that?
Yes. Yeah, no doubt.
And then we also have a great question here from Michael. Michael, thank you for asking great question. What is the best way for an employee to turn themselves into a leader in the company? That is powerful.
Michael, I am so glad that you jumped on, because that's a question that everybody should be asking. Great question. I would tell you this. First off, make the decision on why you want to lead. Leadership is not for everybody. You know, when I was in a senior role in the Fortune 500, I would have people all the time come to me say, hey, I want to be a director. I want to be a director. And I would always say back, do you want the money that a director makes, or do you want the responsibility that comes with it? Because what you think is, I get all the stock options and the big W-2 and the benefits that come with that. But what you don't see is the red eyes on the plane and the several nights in hotels. First off, decide, why is it that you want to lead? The best leaders chase leadership for impact, not money. Now, look, hey, if you're good at it, it's a great way to make a living. So I'm an aspiring leader. I want to lead. I'm an individual contributor. I've made the decision. This is the path that I'm going. There's really three things, maybe 3 to 5 things that I would tell you that you need to look at. The first thing is results.
Yes.
Don't just be good. Be amazing with your results. Your KPIs should be off the charts. You should always be on top of the stack ranking. Work hard, get great results. But results alone are not enough. Results will get you the interview. They will not get you the job. Results get you the interview. The next thing that will help you get the job is methods. Can you articulate methodology? Because individual contributors can do very well in the stack rankings with results alone. But the second you become a leader, you now have to reproduce who you are. And you can teach out of a book, teach what you know, but great leaders reproduce who they are. You got to have great methods, number 2. Number 3 is culture. You had better be a great culture fit. And I don't mean you get along with everybody. That's called being friendly. I'm talking about you understand the company's vision. You can articulate the principal objective, not only verbatim, but what it means. You understand the company culture. You understand what's important to the company. You know the history of the company. At any level, even at entry level, I would tell you this is a big miss for people that want to climb the ladder. And why they don't know this stuff is they say, well, when I become a leader, then I'll learn that. No. What you do now is when you do what others won't do, you'll get what others don't have. There's maybe nobody at entry level that knows the company's principal objective. Only leaders know that. Well, I'll tell you this, if you're an entry level employee and you know it, you're going to be in what I talked about earlier, Camp 4. If it doesn't come up, I'm bringing it up. Why? Because I know something others don't know. I have something to give to that lifeless body laying on the floor, and not everybody does. I do. The other thing is personal brand. This is big. This is what we call the politics of business. Well, Jeff, I'm not brown nosing anybody. I'm not sucking up to anybody. Suit yourself. I'm not telling you to be a suck up. But what I am saying is take credit for what you're doing and find ways to get into these circles, because when it comes time to hire leaders, that hiring manager wants to know that they're bringing somebody onto their team that they're going to work well with, that their personalities are moldable with each other. And so that's why early on you asked the question, I'm leaving for the day. Is there anything else I can do for you? And don't ask that once, because they're not going to take you seriously. You ask that 20 times until you get an assignment. Now you have an opportunity to showcase yourself and work with the boss. Now that boss knows this is what it's like to work with Jeff on this level. Never experienced that before. And then the 5th thing is mindset. Mindset is acting as if. And Michael, toxic environment. Act as if you were given the keys to lead the team. Well, it's not my team. Act as if. That's a mindset. I want to be a leader. Act as if you are now. Don't wait for the title. It's too late. Your credibility is shot. To become the obvious choice, you have to start acting as if you are that now. That way, when you get that nod, especially if it's an internal promotion, everybody that you're now leading says, that makes sense. Jeff, obviously, he was going to get that job. But that's a mindset. Start acting as if you're in the role now.
Anticipate and work towards and fill the gap. And I
Yes.
just love, because then you know where you're headed yourself and how do you fit with an organization? How do you fit with organizational structure? And then also creating opportunities. And I love this such an applicable component that you mentioned, how it is important to ask the questions and what else I can help with. And all of a sudden you're carving not only opportunities, but also showing and showcasing skill sets so that you can have the hybrid role. And right now we're seeing such a huge demand on hybrid roles, huge demand on very specific skills that others don't have, but you may have, that will get you to be irreplaceable and to get you to be one of those core team members that everything else can be built around. And don't be undermining yourself. But again, if you kept well secret, how people will discover you, right? That's what the leadership's all about. You lead first and you let others show or you demonstrate and others see actually what are you capable of, isn't it?
It is so true. That I would tell you that's really the only place that a lack of humility is acceptable. Otherwise, humility is king, right? We don't want to be ego and arrogant. But you surely don't want to be the best kept secret either. If we have ability and we want to try new things, that's a great way to organically develop ourselves into leadership. Expose the fact that you want to lead, that you want to be developed. And look, nobody's going to want it more than you. Believe me. Matter of fact, there's some bosses holding people back. Why? Because they don't want to lose your great results. You're a great individual contributor. So always get advice outside of your direct line of your org chart, because despite what their best intentions are, if you're asking your immediate boss career advice, it's skewed. It is skewed. They don't want to lose you on their team. And Absolutely. So they may massage that message a little bit, but you got to make it known. This is where I want to go. They're going to start giving you feedback then and the right development. But if they're not, again, don't wait. Go chase it down. Doing these leading contributions and so on and so forth, they also will give you a taste of, is this really what I want? Because anybody that's watching that's in leadership knows that it's not all cotton candy and pony rides in leadership. It's a challenge. And people are crazy sometimes. It's like if I had a nickel for every time I went home in my first leadership job and said to my wife, you will never believe what happened today, I would have been able to retire at the end of year one. Like it is a draw on you, but we don't see it as a draw. We see it as an opportunity. But you got to get there. You got to grow through that. It's an organic process.
I love it. And it's something also when we do know more, we do better, and we don't go back to old. We keep pushing and propelling forward. And it is incremental, as you mentioned earlier, and it takes a time. So it's investment. It's investment in yourself, in your own skill set, but also investment in a long-term game. And I love that we have to really pay attention. And as Michael is pointing out here, the mindset is absolutely powerful, and that it's really what helps us to navigate.
Yeah, that's a good point, Michael. Here's the great thing about mindset and attitude. It's a decision. It's not a skill. It's a choice. Look no further than Nelson Mandela. Not a great environment. Not a great circumstance. His mindset, though, his attitude, his mindset and attitude in the biggest adversity propelled him to influence. We can't always control our environment. Back to the original point. What if you can't get out? What if you're trapped? Great news. You can control your mind and you can control your attitude. You can't control a toxic leader, but you can always control how we respond. Respond instead of react. Yeah. We're so quick to react to toxic bosses, toxic employees, whatever it might be. The best leaders, whether you have the title or not, have very high EQ and they respond. They respond to the environment. They respond to the attitude. They respond to the personality because they know they can control their mind and they can control their attitude. Attitude is not necessarily a skill. It's a decision. You can choose.
I love it. So now we have great outline here. I mean, this is so action packed and easy to implement, and very clear and clean in terms of what next and how to, right? And whatever side of the coin we play in, either we're managing others or either we're leading others, either we are doing something that can help us on individual level to continue to lead better. I mean, we have so many different variables here, but regardless of that, only way we're gonna see any change and improvement when everything starts with us and our own way of how we look at things, right?
Yes.
So with that in mind, Jeff, in the closing, do you mind just sharing some of the also additional components, or maybe recap what you already shared, in order now to drive this engagement, in order to drive that high performance? Obviously, we have to be engaging ourselves and then being high performers and show what that is, right? And know and set up the clear expectations. But what else would you recommend in order to turn things around for organizations and leaders that are struggling?
Yeah, I would tell you, especially now, leadership principles have withstood the test of time. However, I think whenever you're in adversity or challenging environments, there are certain things that become more highlighted. For example, emotional intelligence, we know that's always been a good idea. And emotional intelligence is one of these soft skills that it's really hard for people to adopt and to grab. It is one of those that it's better caught than taught, getting around it. But I will tell you right now, the leaders that are leading with humility and leading with high EQ are the ones that are going to win through all of this chaos. And so maybe it's like, Jeff, I keep hearing this EQ thing. I keep hearing emotional intelligence. What are some practical things I can do? Emotional intelligence is more than street smarts, which sometimes we wrap it up in that. Some things that I think people can do intentionally, whether they have read the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0 or not. Listen well. Be an active listener. Listen to hear. Don't listen to just respond. Listen to people and think about what questions are you asking to make it about the employee. What do you like about it here? What should we stop doing? What should we start doing? What would it take to keep you here? These are great questions that get great dialogue, and then listen to what they're saying. The other thing on emotional intelligence is be very self-aware right now. We've been tested emotionally like never before. Turnover is going to spike. Sorry to tell you all. It's going to happen. It's going to drive leaders to the point of the brink. Practice self-awareness. Are you being too testy? Are you being irrational? Are you hot-tempered? Who around you is giving it to you? Who around you is giving you the truth? Not all the people that are telling you what you want to hear, but who's giving you great feedback? Are you able to look in the mirror? Do you know who you are as a leader? And when you do get those people around you, the other thing on EQ I would tell you is take critique well. Don't be defensive, even if you think they're wrong. Bad feedback is valuable feedback. Feedback is today's leadership currency. We are in places that we've never been before, which means we don't have all the answers. Get a lot of feedback. I talked about empathy. It's absolutely big. Be approachable. And this is a little taboo right now, but I would also say be sociable. Send the emoji, send the GIF, get a little more personal. These personal connections. What I'm not saying is get fluffy and soft, but I am saying look to make personal deposits. This is back to that mental health piece and that EQ piece. What this does is it fosters high relationship. Hold the line on accountability, because if you go too personal and too friendly, people start taking advantage. Spin both plates at the same time. Yes. That's where effective respect is coming. That piece is, if you go too hard aggressive right now, you might get compliance. But if you get a good balance of challenging leadership with great deposits, that's where you get respect. So are you the leader right now that people want to have to work for? Or are you the leader that people don't want to let down? These deposits will make you the leader that people don't want to let down. So that would be some closing applicable things that I think people can leave this call right now and go take care of.
Wow, what a great summary, and what a great advice. That is brilliant. Jeff, thank you so much for again showing up and finding time to share today, because again, as we mentioned, this is the very hot topic, a lot of pain points with many organizations around engagement, from talent to team as well, performance, and a lot of times very much so misunderstood the key drivers behind it, and what usually we overlook and don't pay attention, and how leadership actually is a forefront of all of it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I just want to use the opportunity also to thank all of the listeners and people that contributed during this discussion. Albert, was pleasure. Always great to see your smiling face and great comments here. To say thank you so much for sharing your perspective as well. Wonderful to have you. Michael Grapes, and we have two Michaels here, so that's why I'm mentioning their last names here. We also have Anup. We also have a Michael. I believe Matthews. Yes, Ahmed Khalid, was great seeing you, and anybody else that were showing up, asking great questions. I just wanted to say thank you again, and we'll look forward to future broadcasting where we're going to have another series of great guests and any of your questions to be answered. But now back to Jeff. Jeff, this was absolutely most important conversation that I feel like leaders need to take it seriously. Summer is approaching. Yes, you're totally right. We're opening up. COVID is easing out in the United States, at least, in some states more than the others. But what else we need to really keep it is that eyes on the prize and eyes on the goal, right? And that goal is to persevere and keep people engaged and keep them within organizations, so that we don't have this high attritions and pain points more than is necessary. So if everybody listen to this, you have a great path forward to minimize all of that and also minimize people's pain points, because some of them are having really hard time.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I echo what you said, Izabela. This is an opportunity. This is not a problem. This is an opportunity. Back to mindset. We get the opportunity right now as leaders to create positive change, to make deposits, to revolutionize society, to help people get to places they never thought they could ever get to, like a young Jeff Hancher. These are opportunities. They're not problems. They're opportunities to thrive. Leadership thrives in the most adverse situations. We see problems. We're built for the biggest problems. So, Izabela, I really value this platform. I really value what you're doing to make deposits all over the globe. I consider it a great honor to be a part of your network. And I also want to thank everybody listening to this message. If I can add value to anybody, by all means, shoot me a message, and I'll support your efforts any way that I can.
Yes, and please make sure to connect with Jeff on LinkedIn and other platforms and follow his work. He's doing some amazing things, and I'm happy again to invite everybody who is watching and listening to join us on in Clubhouse, because we're doing 3 times a week great conversations, and Jeff is part of it, partakes in great conversations and dialogue, so you can hear more. Also, if you desire that way as well, you're more than welcome to do that. So again, in closing, I just wanted to say deposits are equal to investments. How you invest, right? So you have a chance to invest in yourself, invest in your team, invest in people around you. And as a result, you're going to make more impact. And as a result, you're going to have a more influence. So here we have it. And that is what's leadership all about in this era, post-pandemic. So looking forward to more great convos. And again, Jeff, have a fantastic day. And thank you for being with us.
You as well.
Take care.